If you're watching this, you might be wondering, how exactly does making a legacy film work? So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what we do and go into a bit of detail on each step. Some questions you might be asking: what if I don't know what to say? Is my story even worth capturing? What does this kind of thing cost? What if it doesn't turn out exactly how I hope? And I want you to know all of these questions and more like them are totally normal, because how many legacy films have you ever done? Probably zero. So all of these are normal, and we'll address each one. So in this video, I'll walk you through the Second Mount Films process and address those questions and more. The process is really designed in order to foster a sense of spontaneity, but also create a sense of preparation. So there's a fine line that I'm trying to walk when I create one of these films, because I want people to feel prepared, but I also find that some of the best stuff that arises on camera is when somebody says something they didn't exactly expect to say, but it really comes from a very true part of themselves. The first step is the story call. And in the story call, it's a 30-minute call where you and I get to know each other a little bit. I also get to hear about your story and what you have in mind for your film. And at the end of the call, we'll determine, are we a good fit for you, and are you a good fit for us? It's best if we find out that we're not a good fit early on in the process. However, if we are a good fit, you feel like, yes, I trust these people to tell my story, we feel like, yes, we want to tell your story, then we move on to the next step, which is the screenplay. The second step is the screenplay, and the screenplay, it is a 10 to 20 page document that exists separately from the film, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But the screenplay, it encompasses everything. So it's the roadmap for the entire engagement. I find that successful films, they only come from successful pre-production. So that is the screenplay. And the screenplay, like I said, it encompasses a lot. It is the practical production details. So when are we filming? Where are we filming? Who's being filmed? How many days are we filming? What's the budget? So the practical details as well as the story details. So what is the story we're trying to tell? What are the major themes that have come up? What are some of the questions we might want to focus on? How do we go about building this screenplay? You may be wondering. The way that we build it is through conversation, as well as some structured questionnaires that you fill out in your own time. The conversations are with yourself. We may have a conversation with your spouse, your kids, maybe even your friends. The reason we do this is to get a sense of who you are and get a sense of what is it that the people in your life, the loved ones in your life, what do they want to know about you? Because some of the things that you may want to impart, they may want to know, but other things that you might not even think of as important, they want to hear about. So we want to really get a very well-rounded idea of who you are, what you're all about, what you're trying to share. So that's the conversation piece. And then there's the questions piece. We have what we call the markers, and that is a document that, I came up with this idea for historical markers in somebody's life, because you drive down a highway, you'll see different historical markers along the road. And I thought to myself, what if there were historical markers in people's lives? So that's the first questionnaire. And then the second questionnaire, it's 12 questions. And these questions are really designed to be somewhat open-ended, not to have any defined answer, and for you to really grapple with and go deep with. And these 12 questions you'll send back to us, you'll send the markers document, and then we will have a conversation around those questions that you have answered for us. So through the conversation, through the questions, we really get a very good sense of who you are, what you're about, and really what story is asking to be told here. I'm a big believer that, and it sounds kind of woo-woo, but there is a story that wants to be told. And I want to both listen to you and listen to what story you're trying to tell, but also be on the lookout for what story exists here that you might not be aware of. What story is asking to be told that we can pay attention to. The whole idea behind this is giving me more information about your life, your story, what it is that you're trying to say, as well as help you feel prepared but not rehearsed. So that's really important. I don't want you to feel rehearsed. I don't want you to feel like you're recounting things and you have to get your lines right. That's not what this is. But I also don't want you to go in feeling like you haven't done any preparation at all. So, as I said at the beginning, we're walking a fine line here between preparation and feeling rehearsed. As I mentioned earlier, the screenplay is both priced and developed separately from the film. The reason we do this is so you can see the story, approve of it before committing to the full production. The second reason is so you can get a sense of how we work and the way that we think and the way that I approach story. Because I'd much rather you find out, we're not a good fit early on in the process than later on in the process. The screenplay is $5,000, and it takes about 1 month to develop, We make revisions until the screenplay feels right, the story feels right to you. Now, what happens if you read it and it doesn't feel right? It doesn't feel like it represents your story. That's why we built in the revision process in order to, ensure that that doesn't happen. But let's say it does. What do you do then? We refund your money, no questions asked. We give you your $5,000 back and you go on your way. Now, the reason we do this is because trust is everything to this process. You have to trust me as a filmmaker. You have to trust me as somebody who is going to ask you questions that you may not have ever been asked before. I may be the first person to hear some things about your life that you've never said to anyone. So could somebody take advantage of this and get the screenplay and, get their money back? They could. But to me, this is the way that I earn your trust. And like I said, if you don't have trust in me as a filmmaker, as somebody who's going to tell this story, then let's absolutely not do this. Because if the screenplay does not feel right to you, then there's absolutely no way we can create a film together that is going to resonate. The very last part of the screenplay is the budget. And the way that we arrive at the budget is through understanding what is the story that's trying to be told. So that's why we create the screenplay, is so we can figure out what budget do we need to assign to this in order to tell this story well. And budgets range wildly. So it could be $15,000 on the low end for a really simple shoot. It could be $250,000 for a multi-location, multi-year effort where, we're flying at it every so often. So it just really depends on what is the scope of the film. And that's why we develop the screenplay, is so we can figure out what is the scope of the film based on the story that we're trying to tell. Lastly, the production budget is never a template. It is always unique to you and custom and designed around the story. Once you have approved the budget and finalized the screenplay, then we move on to step 3, which is filming. Okay. Filming day has arrived. So depending on the scope of your project, the details might differ, but here's what's going to happen regardless. First thing we're going to do is have an evening meal. So before the filming day, we're going to have a meal together, maybe share a drink. The reason we do this is because it helps with nerves. It surfaces any remaining questions that you may have so we can address those. So then we go into the filming day, you're feeling good, you're feeling confident, you're feeling less intimidated about a camera, being pointed at you. Next is setup. So I'll arrive in the morning, get everything set up, and we're ready to roll by 9 a.m. Next is questions. And that's really where things begin. So I start with easy questions, and then we work into questions that maybe require a bit more thought, that require a bit more reflection. And I give the space that's needed. Sometimes it takes you 2 or 3 minutes to think of a response to a question. That's totally fine. I want to give these films a room to breathe. I don't want to force anything. I want this to be a conversation between yourself and myself, me kind of as the mediator in this conversation, as well as a conversation partner for you to be able to think through and work through some of the things that are on your heart. And then the interview wraps at noon. So 3 hours I've found is about the maximum time that anybody can be interviewed. You'll be tired. It won't feel like you've done all that much, but it is kind of draining. So I don't want to push it anywhere past 3 hours. Next is lunch. We're going to be hungry. But after that, we're going to film you in your element. So this could be you on a trail run. It could be you in your wood shop or in your garage working on that project. Whatever it is, whatever you like to do, whatever it is that makes you feel like you are in contact with life, that's what I want to capture. One of my whole thing behind Second Mountain Films is I don't want to capture somebody's history. I don't want to capture just the facts about their life. I want to capture what it feels like to be in their life. And that's where the things that you love to do, the ways that you spend your time, that's what I want to capture. And then this needs to be said. We don't ever film more than 2 consecutive days in a row. I found by the 3rd day, people are pretty drained. So if we're going to be filming for 3 days, we'll do 2 days, take a break. And that break really serves for you to rest, as well as think about, what else do I want to say? What did I not get a chance to say? Where are places that we might want to go deeper or explore more on? And then that next day, we would do some more filming. My role during the filming is an interesting one. I view myself as a filmmaker, but I'm also a witness to whatever is being said and whatever is being shared. And I also view myself as a conversation partner to help guide you or maybe point out areas where you could go deeper on something that's interesting to me. I very much use a combination of just curiosity as well as trying to read, what's being said beneath the surface layer of your answer and where might be an interesting area to explore together. After the filming has wrapped, the next step is editing. And editing is the fun part. Clients will sometimes say, oh, I look forward to seeing how it turns out. And I say, me too. Because I have an idea of how it will turn out, but the edit always surprises me. It always ends up being something more than the filming itself. So that's a really exciting phase. And we spend about 2 to 3 months in the edit. The reason we spend that time is because this is a film that is going to be shown to people in 30 years, in 50 years, in 75 years, and we want to spend the time on it that it deserves. It deserves to be done exceptionally well, and that's what we'll do. The next step is film delivery and revision. So we deliver the final film to you, as well as a 2-minute trailer, in addition to all the uncut interviews. So you'll have all those as well. This will probably be an emotional moment. And some people will choose to watch it by themselves first. Other people, they won't want to watch it at all. Other people will have the whole family gather together and watch it together. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I think you'll have a sense of what's right for you once you have the film in hand. And then this needs to be said, if there's any revisions that are needed, if there's anything we need to change, if there's anything that made the cut that you don't want in there, you let us know, and we will make it right. Nothing makes it into the final version without your sign-off. The next step is resonance. One of the reasons my work in my creative agency started to feel hollow is because the work got less valuable over time. And with legacy films, legacy projects like this, it's the opposite. And I know this from experience. So every year I put together what I call the Rhubarb Family Highlight Reel. And it is, I take video with my camera and with my phone throughout the year and put together a 30-minute video that we watch at the very end of the year. My wife and I, the 2021 that we watched, it was cool when we first watched it, but now we watch it and we realize, man, we've done a lot. We didn't have kids back then. We didn't have a house back then. And just to see what we've been able to accomplish together has been really meaningful. So this film, it will matter when you first get it. But I don't think you'll fully appreciate the weight of what we have created together until 5 years, 10 years, 30 years down the road. A film like this will be returned to over time. The reason it's returned to is not because the film changes, but we as people change. And the grandkid that watches it at 15, it will probably mean something different when that same grandkid watches it at 30 because they have changed. The final step is not really a step, it's more of an intention, but it's friendship. One of the things that's been most rewarding in my work as a filmmaker is somewhere along the way, with some projects, not all projects, but some projects, I go from, filmmaker, client relationship to friend relationship. I don't want to drop off the map after the film is done. I hope to stay in touch with you. I hope to hear how this film changes your family, how the film changed you, and stay in touch as life goes on for each of us. So there you have it. That is the Second Mountain Films process. It was designed to have enough structure where we both feel prepared, but also with enough spontaneity that magic can surface. And to me, as a filmmaker, that is one of the most wonderful things about what I get to do is leaving room for magic. And more often than not, the magic shows up. So that's it. If you have any questions, please reach out. Thanks for watching.